episode of Left Hand Reviews. Today we're going to take a look at a new upcoming Kickstarter game called Darkrock Ventures. Darkrock Ventures was developed by Michael Eskew, and it's published by both Magic Meeple Games and Gamelin Games. This game will play in about 30 to 60 minutes with 2 to 5 players. More players is probably going to take a little bit longer, closer to the hour. Once everybody knows what they're doing, you should easily be able to get this game done in probably 20 to 40 minutes. In Darkrock Ventures, each player is an asteroid miner, or more or less the foreman of an asteroid mining company, and you're going to be sending your workers out to mine various minerals from the asteroid. The different minerals have different difficulties in obtaining and therefore are worth more money. The object of the game is to have the most money by the end. This is a dice-based game, so there's a high luck factor as you're going to be rolling dice and trying to match the pips on the dice with the areas of the asteroid in which you want to mine. So let me take a look at what comes in the box of Darkrock Ventures. Dogs must have found a rabbit. So let me open the box. I'm going to show you what you get in a game of Darkrock Ventures, keeping in mind that this is a Kickstarter preview, so these are prototype components. And at the end, I'm going to tell you basically what's going to change more or less between the prototype copy and the final copy. And this will give you hopefully a really good idea whether this is a game that you should be backing on Kickstarter. When we open up the box here, you're going to note a little note that I got from the designer talking a little bit about the game and what's going to change between this and the full release. You have the instruction book, which for a prototype instruction book is extremely well done. I mean, it's color pictures, it's diagrams, it's laid out very well. And the game was very easy to learn. He also included a little cheat sheet of all the different places on the board in which you're going to be placing your dice and your workers. You're going to get a bunch of dice. Each player is going to have 3 dice of their own color, plus you're going to have 3 community dice, 2 of which are white and 1 which is black. You have all your various chits in here. You have workers, which are your meeples. You have little tokens here for moving up different tracks, and then you have all the cubes, which are going to represent your different resources. We have a deck of cards. This deck of cards represents the marauders, or the invading aliens, that are just going to each round have an event that's probably going to throw a wrench into your mining plans. And also in this bag we have the player boards, which I'm going to pull out in a minute. And then finally we have the main board. So on the board you're going to set up all the minerals, and this is also going to show all the places in which you can place your workers. So let me get a game set up. I'm going to run through real quick how to play Darkrock Ventures. Here we have our setup of Darkrock Ventures for 2 players. You're going to see each player has a player board with 3 of their small-sized worker meeples on their board and 1 die. You're also going to notice this orange token here. Down here, this is basically your cargo hold. It's a little hard to tell, but it's divided into 6 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for each one. By default, you only have 3 spots in which you can place your collected resources, but through actions you can increase that to a maximum of 6. You'll also notice that there are 2 more dice and 2 more meeples of each player's color off to the side. Those are ones that you can recruit as the game goes on. You may also notice that one of them is a bit larger. This is your captain. He, for all intents and purposes, counts as 2 meeples wherever you put him, allowing you to double the effect or double the collection of wherever you place him. On the board here, you'll notice all the different spaces that you can place workers. Any space that is a hexagon is an area where you can place a worker, and also the central mining locations that are round and have an even number in them, those are places where you place workers in order to mine. The different resources that you have are your neutronium, which is your red cubes at the top. You have your energy, which are these yellow cubes down at the bottom. These are kind of your replenishable or more prevalent resources on the asteroid. These actually never deplete. When they're taken off the board and used, they're put right back on to be collected again later. Whereas the resources in the middle here are finite, and they will actually trigger the end of the game, which I'll explain in a minute. Your orange cubes are your iron, obviously the most prevalent, followed by your blue cobalt cubes, and finally your most scarce platinum white cubes. Basically, the flow of the game is you're going to be placing workers, executing the actions, and included in those actions is selling of your resources. Obviously, the more scarce the resource, the more money it's worth. So the first thing that's going to happen is the leader, who is the person that has this really handy leader card, which also is a round sequence, is going to grab the white power dice. So I'm going to move all these dice off to the side. Leader's going to roll the white ones. So we roll a 5 and a 1. If you have doubles, you'll roll again. But doubles are actually good because they're going to let you preview the Therian Marauders ahead of time. We have a 1 and a 5. Then what happens is each person is going to assign their crew members one at a time, going back and forth, just like most other worker placement games. So purple may choose to go here, and orange, or red rather, may choose to attempt to mine some iron there. And it's going to go back and forth until everybody is on the board. So let me just put a couple out here real quick. Then, after everybody's placed, the leader is then going to roll the black neutronium die. Now what's going to happen is players are going to be using their die or dice in conjunction or combination with the community dice. So the fact that you're rolling the 2 white dice first kind of gives you an idea of, alright, some various combinations on the board. So for example, if you rolled, a couple 6s, it might be a little more challenging for you to pair your dice to get a 2. So it kind of gives you a little head start on what to do. So now the leader's going to roll the neutronium die, which is the black one. So this solidifies the dice that are going to be usable by all players. Then what's going to happen is the leader is going to check to see if the Therian Marauders attack. The Therian Marauders are not going to attack until you start exporting goods, because at that point you have a small mining operation, they don't care. But once you start exporting goods, the aliens are going to realize that this is a valuable planet and they're going to try to invade. So at this point, we have not exported or sold any of our goods, so the Therian Marauders would not happen typically right now. But just for the sake of example, I'm going to show you what you would do. You would flip over this card. It's going to show you that this is an export lockdown. And the Therian Marauders are going to basically attack anybody that's on the export spaces, which are right here. So immediately when that happens, players have a few different options. They can cash in a neutronium that they have previously collected to power up their shields to protect their workers that have been placed, or their miners that have been placed on those particular spaces. If they do not have neutronium, they can cash in any other resource that they have collected to basically exchange for that neutronium. Again, that's a really harsh exchange rate, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Finally, what you can do is just run away. You would take your workers that are on those spaces and put them back on your player board. Once you evaluate the Therian Marauders, you're then going to complete all of your actions. Starting with the leader, they will evaluate all of their placed workers. Then the next player will evaluate all their workers, and so on and so forth. So when it's your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to roll your personal die, and then what you're basically going to do is make combinations of your die and one of the community dice in order to execute an action. Players are going to start with $2 in the bank. Bucks in the bank, your money here, also counts towards your score. Actually, that would be right here. As you get to $10, you're going to take your second die, and once you hit $20, you're going to take your third die. If by any chance you should fall short again, you have to give that die back. So here's what the spaces do. Up at the top left, we have our gear spaces. What gear is going to do is help you modify your dice and where your workers are placed. With the rough imaging, it's going to allow you to add +3 or -3 to the result of one of your personal dice. Your personal dice are also known as your rig dice, so keep that in mind. Most of these actions apply to your own personal dice, your rig dice, not the community dice. So again, this is going to allow me to add exactly +3 or exactly -3 to one of my rig dice to combine with. The precise imaging is going to do +1, -1. Your vortex drill is going to let you basically flip your die to its opposite face. And your rover is pretty neat. What that's going to allow you to do is move the location in which your miner is placed. So if he was here, and I also had a guy on rover, I could execute the rover action to move him one space over. Because maybe after the dice have been all cast, I realize I can get a 12, I can't really get a 10. This is also an interesting mechanic because normally when you are placing your workers, they cannot go on spaces where other players already are. But with the rover action, it's a way to break that rule and allow you to come in here to the same location where another worker already exists, which is also especially good if these, say, are dwindling in their resources. You do that move, you steal that away from the other player. Now they have a meeple there that they have nothing to do with. So it's a really, really fun part of this game, is kind of those tactics and backstabbery. Moving on to these down here, you have a leader space and a delegate space. These occur immediately when you place them. That's kind of separate from these other ones that happen during this execution phase. These will happen immediately when you place a worker here. The leader allows you to take the leader card, so you're going to be the leader the next round. And it also gives you a neutronium. The delegate space is pretty cool. You're going to put a guy there and immediately be able to put another guy in a location where a opponent's miner already exists. Again, a second way to break that only one player per space. It's also worth noting on that you can have multiple workers on the same space. So for example, if I had 2 miners here, if I successfully mined this cobalt, I would take 2 of them. And that's exactly how the captain works as well. If I just had 1 captain on this space and he mined successfully, he would take 2 cobalt. Then down on the bottom left-hand side of the board, we have our cargo area. Cargo is going to allow you to increase the cargo capacity of your ship. So by placing here, you expand your cargo capacity by 1. The other location here has 2 lock symbols and has a -1 money, which means you get to move 2 spaces or unlock 2 areas of your cargo compartment, but it's going to cost you $1. All you basically do is you're going to move back 1 on the track. Keeping in mind, you don't want to move behind 10 and 20 if you can avoid it, because you don't want to lose those dice that you've previously obtained. Down at the bottom here, we are going to see the rigs area. What these allow you to do is kind of supplement your rig dice. The rig rental lets you borrow and roll one of the dice that you have not yet activated. So it's kind of a one-time use of that die. The rig mod area allows you to use 2 of your rig dice together to attempt a mine, rather than having to use the default of 1 of your own dice and 1 of the community dice. So that's really cool if you roll really well. And finally, you have the rig reboot. That simply lets you re-roll 1 of your rig dice. Above that, we have our export spaces. That's pretty straightforward. That's going to allow you to export the goods from your cargo hold. You go here, you can export up to 1, up to 2, and up to 3. The value of those are $1 buck for the neutronium, $3 for your energy down at the bottom. You will get $4 for your iron, $6 for cobalt, and the platinum up at the top is worth $8 each. Then finally at the top we have the crew spaces. The crew spaces are how you get additional workers. You place a guy here, it allows you to buy a new worker for $3 or recruit a captain for $5. Here, if you want to disband them, fire them, you can fire your regular workers for $2 and your captains for $3. This might be a tactic towards the end of the game to maximize the number of points / money that you have. And finally, we have subcontract. If you have some workers and just nothing else you can do with them, you can put them here in the subcontract space to earn money. $1 for your regular one, $2 for your captain. All right, now let's talk about the meat of the game, the mining. Mining is very, very simple. All you have to do is place one of your workers on a mining location, say the 12 up here, and combine one of your rig dice, remember, with one of the community dice and equal exactly 12. So in this case, I would not be able to do it. Say I rolled a 6 and this was a 5, it was an 11, and say I also had a meeple here on the precision imaging, I could take them off the precision imaging, add 1 to this would make it 7. Yes, it does not roll over, it simply adds to it. 7 plus 5 is 12. I can now take one of the platinum and I'm going to put it in the cargo area on my player board. and then I can use that later to export. The neutronium is a little bit different. You get it from selecting the leader space, but also if you are placed on mining areas and for some reason you choose not to mine, or more likely you're unable to mine because you rolled dice like I do horribly, then as a consolation prize you get to collect some neutronium because it's a very prevalent resource on this asteroid. And then finally at the bottom we have the solar array. You're going to place a worker on the solar array. During the execution action phase, you have two choices. You can either move your worker up one space, or you can pull them off. So in the first round, you're going to definitely want to move them up. And then the next round, you may choose to maybe move him up a second time. Then the next round comes along, you may choose to pull him off. If you pull him off while he's on the 2 space, surprise, surprise, you get to collect 2 energy. You can go all the way up to the 3 space, at which point you get to collect 3 energy. Keep in mind, you can only hold up to 6 different resources, or 6 total resources, based on how big your cargo hold is. If at any point you need to jettison some cargo to make room for others, you're allowed to do that. Cargo, or all these minerals here in the center, get removed from the game after you export them. The energy and the neutronium, on the other hand, are very prevalent, so they will go back to the board. The game will end once 3 of the central mining spaces have been depleted, at which point you'll finish the current round, you'll play 1 additional round, and whoever has the most money wins. So what do I think about Darkrock Ventures? Well, I have to tell you, I really enjoy die rolling, and I love worker placement games, and the fact that it combines both of those into a lighter and easy to learn game, even easy to teach, makes this a winner for me. Now, I want to preface this that because of the dice, and this is 99% dice, there's a high amount of luck. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. All that means is your gameplay moves from more of a strategic to more of a tactical. Every turn you're going to have to make your split-second decisions on what you want to do. You need to be careful because some people this can cause analysis paralysis, but I didn't really run into that when playing this game. Also, at the very beginning of the game, the rounds are going to go very quick because you only have really 1 worker, but once you get more and more, you can build more of an engine. You just have to keep an eye out for those Therian marauders and make sure you hopefully have some resources on hand to prevent them from attacking. Now, as far as the components are concerned, this is the letter that I received from the developer of the game, and this is what he says will be improved with the final version of the game, pending also some stretch goals. They are: the resource cubes will all be wooden instead of the plastic ones here. Meeples for the captain and crew tokens will be even more distinct and have custom shapes. The final board will be a 12 by 12 inch quad fold. Box art will be fully wrapped around the box, of course, as you'd expect. All cards, though, have the final artwork, and the card backs, though, obviously had the temporary Kickstarter advertisement on them. And the leader card will be replaced with a leader token, and a quick reference card will be included and will be a little bit sturdier. All that sounds really good, and if the communication and the fit and finish of this prototype are any indication, I bet you the Kickstarter hopefully should go pretty well and everybody should be pleased. The only other prototype that I've received that had this level of fit and finish and quality and how ready to go it felt was Zaya, which turned out to be an excellent Kickstarter and an excellent game. I really don't have much negative to say about this game. You either like dice rolling or you don't. One of my favorite games that I've probably played more than all my other games is Alien Frontiers. I love Alien Frontiers because, and it's definitely 90% of the time my go-to for our gateway game because it's so easy to learn and people love rolling dice. And you don't have to have this grandiose strategy in the beginning because that dice kind of keep you in the moment, keeps you thinking about your current turn, which I really like. So what this does is it has a very similar mechanic to that, or also to Kingsburg if you've played that before and some of the other dice worker placement games, but it compacts it into a much shorter game, and I really like that. The artwork of the game, according to the developer, is more or less final, and I do like it. It goes very well. I kind of wish the board was a little bit bigger and the cubes a little bit chunkier. But, you know, when you think about it, how big can you make, you know, resource cubes, and how big can you make the board where its only purpose is to put resource cubes? But other than that, I mean, the game, you know, the game's polished. The game's ready to go, pending maybe some improved quality components. So I definitely encourage you to check out the Darkrock Ventures Kickstarter when it goes live. It should be going live relatively soon. I did check today, and it isn't live just yet. So keep an eye out for that. You can always check out the BGG page for Darkrock Ventures to keep up to date on the status. It's a game I definitely would recommend, and I had a great time playing it. So thanks for watching Left Hand Reviews. Hopefully I'll be able to review the final copy of this game once it comes out. In the meantime, you're just going to have to kickstart it and keep an eye out for my other reviews on lefthandreviews.com, facebook.com, Twitter, and of course Google+. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.